Hello everyone and welcome to the sixth part of this OpenGL 2D game programming series. So in the last part of this series, we worked with keyboard input, and now we have the working keyboard input, and we can now change the direction of the snake using the direction keys. Now we're going to work with the food, a target which will be drawn randomly on the screen anywhere, and the score will increase if the snake will go over the target, and the position of the target will be redrawn. So I mean that the position will be changed, so it will be drawn at a different position. So before that, we also need to restrict the movement of the snake inside the box. So as you can see, the object now here can go outside the area which is under the view. It goes outside the red boundary which I've drawn here. So we'll implement the logic to end the game when the snake when it touches the red boundary or tries to go outside it. So this will be our first goal, and the next goal will be drawing the target, and the body of the snake will create in the next video tutorial. So let's first get started with this part. And now to restrict the movement of the object, we'll go into the drawSnake function in our game.cpp file, and at the end of this, after this head of the snake has been drawn by this function call, we'll check if it has been drawn in the red area, means in the block number 0 or block number 39 on the x-axis or on the y-axis. So for that, by block number 0, I'm in the first block which is red, and the last block which is also red, on both x and y-axis. So we will first check if the position x, in the earlier parts we've created these variables, position x and position y of the snake. So we'll check if the position x is equal to 0, or position x equal to the length minus 1, because length is 40, and the last block will be length minus 1 because blocks start from number 0. So if the position x is 0, or position x is grid x minus 1, or the position y equal to 0, or position y equal to grid y minus 1, and so in this case the game should end. So to end the game, we need to declare a boolean expression which will hold the value that if game has ended or not. So in the main.cpp file, we'll create a boolean expression game over, which will be by default false, and if the game over is true, so in the display callback function, after the buffers have been swapped, means all the drawing function has been completed. Then after that, we'll check we'll check the value of the game over, and if it is true, we'll print something, we'll show a message box on the screen, and we'll exit the game. So if game over is true, then first a message box. So this message box function is in the Win32 API. If you're using Linux, you can use different function of your windowing API accordingly. So for the Windows, you use this function, which is in the windows.h header file, which is already included in the glut header file. So we need not to worry about including that, and so we'll use this function to display a message box that the game has ended. So first it takes the window handle, which will be null, and then the text. So we need to display some text. In the text section, we'll display the score. We've not implemented the logic to store the value of the score, so we'll keep it empty. And in the caption, we'll write game over, and the U type will keep it 0. We need not to worry about that. What is that? Because we're just working with OpenGL here. This is just when the game ends. So or you can use different ways to end the game. You can either clear the screen and draw some draw some text on the screen saying game over, or you can also use the message box like I'm doing here. So after that, this program continues when the OK button in the message box is clicked. So after that, when the program continues, it will exit using this function exit and pass an argument 0. So if the game over is true, then the message box will be displayed and the game will be closed. So now in the draw snake function, we also need to use the game over boolean variable from the game.cpp header file. So we'll use the extern pointer to use this. So extern boolean game over. So if the snake has been drawn in the red area, means this condition is true, so game over will be true. And now we'll check if this is working. We'll compile and run a program to see if there are any errors in a program. Okay, so this works fine. And now we'll check if yes, this is working. It goes into the red area and game is over and a message box is displayed. And now the red color of the snake head is not looking fine because the boundary is also red. So let's just change the color using the gl color 3f command, and we'll set the color to green. And now it will look better than before. So here it goes. So it's now green colored and it looks better. And now we'll start with drawing the food on the screen. So first, without worrying about anything else, we will create a function draw food, which will take no arguments and return void. We'll also define the function here in the game.h header file. Void. Okay, so we've the function here draw food, and the food is drawn at a random position. So we need two x and y coordinates ranging between 1 to 38 to draw food onto the screen. Will not draw the food at the position 0 or 39 because that is the red area and the snake cannot go in that, so it is not to be drawn in that area. So for that we'll need random numbers. So to get two random numbers, we'll create another function which will return void, because we cannot actually return two values from a single function. So we'll instead use references to manipulate the variables which have been passed into the function. So we'll call the function random, and it takes two references of integer x, a value x, and y. So two values x and y, so it will return two coordinates to you which are random. And to get a random number, we use the function rand, which is to be earlier seeded before calling seeded with an integer which is not to be same every time, because if every time the seed is same, the random numbers returned might be same. So we need to seed the random numbers with a different number every time. So for that we can use the time on your computer. So to get the time, we can include the C time header, and now we can seed the random number using the time on your machine. So to get an integer value of the number of seconds on your machine, we can use the time function and pass null into that. So this returns an integer value which can be used to seed the random number. And now we need random numbers of a specific range, which is from 1 to 39, from 1 to 38 actually. So it'll be 1 to 38. So our maximum value is okay, this is actually a reserved keyword. So our maximum value will be 38, which will be the grid x minus 1 minus 2 actually, 2 less than the grid, and the minimum value is 1, because we do not want the value to be 0 or it will be drawn in the red region. So 1 to 38, this will be the range, minimum and maximum. So actually this random function returns any random value which the number is quite high. So we'll use an algorithm to convert that to a ranged random number, which is minimum plus the random number modulus maximum minus minimum. So we'll use this algorithm to get a ranged random number. So we'll use this for both of these. So the value of x will set to a random number, will be equal to minimum plus random number, which is returned by the rand function, and modulus maximum minus minimum. So if in case the value of grid x is not equal to grid y, so we need to use the different values for the x coordinate and y coordinates, different maximum values. So we'll declare actually two variables, max x equal to grid x minus 2 and max y equal to grid y minus 2. Okay, now we are getting the value for x, so we'll use max x. Similarly, for the y value, we'll use the same algorithm, and y will be equal to this algorithm, and we'll replace the max x with max y, and so this will set the value of these two integers to a random number. And now we'll also declare this function in the header file to integer references, and there it goes. And now we can use the function draw food to draw food at a random location. So first thing, that the food is not to be drawn at a random position when each frame is displayed. It is only to be drawn where it is consumed. So we'll need a variable to store the value true or false, that is if we need to change the position of the food or not. And so we'll name the variable, it'll be a boolean expression, and we'll name it just food, and by default it'll be true, because when the game starts, food has to be drawn at a random position. And so if it is true, we'll first check it. If food is true, then we'll reset the positions of the food. So we've not yet declared the variables that will store the position of the food. So for the position of the food, we'll declare two integers, food x and food y. So we'll use the random functions to get the values of food x and food y. So in the draw food function, if food is true, means the food position has to be reset again. So any random numbers, then we'll call the random function, and it takes two references, so it'll manipulate food x and food y accordingly, and so we'll have random values in food x and food y only if the food is true, and then we'll set the food equal to false. So this will no longer be executed again. It means the position of the food will not be changed again until the value of the boolean food is set to true, and the draw food function is called again, and then food will be drawn at the position food x comma food y. So we'll use the glrectf function to draw food at this position. Okay, so this is the position at which the food will be drawn. So let's have a look how this works. I'll take you to the function. So this function is called if food is true, then the position of the food is changed, if the food is and then the food is set to false, and if it is already false, then this is not executed. Means the position of food x and food y remains same, and it is drawn again at the same position as it was on the previous frame. But if the value of the food is true, then the position, it'll be drawn at a new position. So this will be controlled by just the food boolean expression. So now in the draw snake function, we want that when the snake goes over the food, means it hits the food, then the position of the food is to be reset and the score has to be increased. We'll not worry about the score yet, but we'll just check if the food has been hit by the snake, means it has been consumed by the snake. So if the head of the snake and the food are overlapping, means it is going over it and there has been a collision between food and the snake, and so the score has to increase and the position of food has to be reset. So we'll check if position x equal to food x and position y equal to food y. This means that the position of the snake, head of the snake, and the position of the food is same. So if this occurs, then the food boolean will be set to true, means the and if this is true, then next time the draw food function is called, which is which will be called from here, the display callback right here, then the position of the food will be reset. So we'll call the function draw food after drawing the snake. And so we'll compile and run it and check if it is working. And there it is. Okay, I did not change the color of the food, so it's better if you change the color of the food to a different one, because here it is green, and let's draw the food in red color. So now we'll check. Okay, so the red colored one is the target, and if the snake head goes over the target, then it is redrawn at a different position. And when we draw the body of the snake, then each time it hits the target, the length of the snake will increase. So that will be implemented in the next part. So this was all for this video, and I'll see you next time.